Roll call.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Handy,
Here.
or Commissioner Sanchez,
Here.
Mayor Trujillo,
Here.
Commissioner Butcher,
Here.
and the record will show that Commissioner Campus is not here.
Commissioner Bernard will lead us in prayer and pledge.
If y'all could all bow your heads, please. Our Heavenly Father, Lord, we just want to thank you for this hot day, Lord. Lord, we just ask that you bring some rain. Lord, we ask that also you bless those that are sick and not able to take care of themselves. Bless those that are in harm's way. And Lord, bless each and every one of the city people, the commissioners and their wives and families. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico. This is a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second it.
Got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do you have another motion?
Make a motion for the consideration of the minutes of July 22nd, 2019.
Second it.
Had a motion second by Bernard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to Commissioner and staff reports. Whack.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'd like to give a report. I know we just had Main Street patched, and the following day after Fair and Parade, or the rodeo parade, we did have one of the clamps, I guess from the compaction of them preparing the road, it settled and got the clamp leak a little bit, and that's why it was torn back up, but they got that set back in and packed back in, so we will be getting that patched. CDBG project on the roadways, they're finalizing the lights and the slurry seal, finishing the roads possibly by the end of next week or the following week. The contract still is good until September 15th. Is on their contract date. So, moving forward on the rest of those. I know we had one of our meetings on our commercial street phase 2 project. We're still finalizing some of the contract with DOT and everything on that one to go from Mexico all the way to the New Mexico 18 for the final of that completion.
Any other questions? Sir. Thank you, Wyatt. Gary?
Your mayor and commission have nothing new to report this evening.
Any questions by the board?
No.
Jalen?
Nothing, sir.
Shannon? You sure, Shannon? It's your first day on the job. Thank you, Shannon.
Well, I'm just here, I don't have nothing to report.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Gaines?
The only thing I like the new signs, the way they lit them up, and I guess they changed the 17th and Avenue D light. They put an LED in there. I like that a lot better.
They do look nice.
Nothing to report, sir.
Chief?
We just got a new ambulance in today, so it's out front if anybody would like to take a look at it after the meeting.
Thank you. Yes, sir. James?
No, sir.
Patrick?
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to public comment. Anybody in the public like to say anything?
We know y'all not shy.
Okay, we'll move on to non-action items. James?
Yes, sir. Mayor and Commissioners, if you hadn't read the paper, last Thursday it came out that there's going to be a new hospital constructed north of Hobbs. And I asked Mr. Shaw to be here tonight to kind of give a report on what's going to happen with healthcare in Lee County and how this new facility can work to improve healthcare in Lovington. Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to come and visit with you today. And we feel like this is a really good thing for Lovington and Lee County as a whole. And I think I need to go back and share with you a little bit of history to help bring us to where we're at today. In 2013, there was a commission that was put together by the Maddox Foundation to look at healthcare throughout the county and where the gaps were and what needs needed to be filled. And in that study, they determined that we were short in Lee County 27 primary care physicians, about 12 to 15 specialists, and then we had shortfalls in behavioral health, especially, and also in women's health and specific to deliveries. And if you recall, in 2013, that's about the time that we saw several OBGYNs exit Hobbs, the community of Hobbs. And what has happened since then, last year, I believe 60% of all babies were born in Texas that resided in Lee County. In addition to that, and what I think is very unacceptable, is that there were several babies that were born on the side of the road because they didn't make it to Lubbock. And met one of those ladies at the school district Friday when I was addressing the school and the teachers. In addition to that, there was close to 700 patients last year that had to be transferred out of our facility because we're a critical access hospital, which gives us certain advantages, and it's the reason why we've grown to the size that we are today. But it does give us some limitations, and so in terms of being able to take care of patients that are critically ill and need ICU, we're not able to do that. And so rather than being able to transfer them to Hobbs, primarily out of a request of patients themselves, they were transferred to Lubbock. And so if you've ever had somebody that had to be in an ICU in Lubbock, the hardship that creates on a family having to travel back and forth. And as you know, recently the behavioral health unit at Lee Regional was closed. So that's left all of our communities without any type of inpatient support for behavioral health. Going back to that 2013 study, the Board of Trustees made it a priority to try to fill those gaps in the area of primary care, and we built the Lovington Medical Clinic, the 50,000 square foot facility that resides on the south side of the campus. We added about 10 physicians there. With a partnership with the county, we added the Hobbs Medical Clinic, and we added about 9 physicians or primary care providers there. So that gap went from 26 to about 5 today. So we've made a lot of progress there. We now have 10 to 12 full-time specialists that reside in Lovington and practice on a full-time basis. And what that has done to our facility, we now have close to 550 employees. We do about 180,000 outpatient visits a year. We did 110,000 clinic visits. That's both our specialists and our primary care. And we did about 12,000 ER visits. So for a small community of Lovington, that's a pretty substantially large facility. We're probably one of the top 10 in terms of size and revenues in the country in terms of a small rural hospital. That's been due to the fact that we've really worked hard to fill those gaps. But each year we do a strategic planning session, we do a community needs assessment, and we still determine there's gaps in OB services, critical care services, and behavioral health services. Those are areas that we really can't fill because of the type of hospital that we are. So we felt like it was important that we collaborate with someone else to try to fill those needs for our district members. Not worried so much about Hobbs, if you will, but primarily our district members, because they're the ones that are still going out of town to have those babies in ICU and a lack of behavioral health skills or services. So we started working with Covenant about 3 years ago, looking at different options. And so what they're going to build is a 32-bed hospital on the north side of Hobbs. It'll have 4 ICU beds. It'll have a women's health center. They'll deliver babies, and they're also planning to put in an inpatient behavioral health unit that would include substance abuse care. Now, what they're specifically not putting in is a large outpatient center because they want to collaborate with us. They'll be utilizing our primary care base that we have throughout the county to help make referrals to that facility. As they have patients that need rehab, we provide rehab services, and so those patients may be transferred over here for rehab services. So we will see. I know a lot of people are concerned what's going to happen to our hospital. I've heard a lot of that. Actually, what I think will happen is just like anything that's new, everybody wants to go try it out. So I think there'll be a little settling that'll take place. We have about 38% of our ER volume that is Hobbs residents. That's not good if you look at things from a community perspective, because people are traveling 20, 30 miles when they have a true emergency. And we've had some real dire situations where people have traveled over here. In fact, I can recall more than one situation where people died on their way. And so they need to get their emergency care close to home. And so while we'll see a drop in ER visits, I think that's a good thing for the community as a whole. And I also think that will shorten length of stay, our wait times in our own emergency room, because we've grown from, this is incredible, but in 2003 we averaged about 250 ER visits a month. We now average about 1,000 a month in Lovington. As you know, the community of Lovington hasn't really grown that much. It's just people coming from surrounding locations. But as that hospital develops and as we continue to collaborate with them, I think you're going to see a lot of the healthcare dollars that have gone to Lubbock, particularly out of the Hobbs market. We estimate that's anywhere from $250 million to $500 million of revenues that are going to Lubbock and Midland, Odessa. When a significant portion of that comes back into the community, there's more need for primary care, there's more need for lab, all these other services that we're providing in collaboration with this new facility. So I think you're still going to continue to see our organization grow and prosper. And we're going to continue to be strong. You know, a decision that the Board of Trustees and I had to make, we knew that this was coming, this day was coming, that somebody else would move into the market because of the challenges I think that Lee Regional is facing. And we could either sit back and do nothing and just let somebody else move in, and they would take a very competitive approach toward us, because we obviously have a lot of business that's coming from Hobbs. Or we could collaborate with somebody else and do it in a spirit of trying to create a healthcare system throughout the county, and both organizations prosper as a result of that. So that's the approach we took. We have a long-standing relationship with Covenant. We collaborate with them now with the cancer program, and just to give you an example, that program started in 2006. We did 354 procedures in 2006. Today we did 10,000. This year we did 10,100 procedures on cancer patients throughout southeastern New Mexico. And I think probably the more important thing is the cancer death rate. 2006 was 183 per 100,000. Today it's 133 per 100,000. And so Lee County used to be known as having the highest mortality rate for cancer. Now we're as good or better than the average in the state of New Mexico. So we're pretty proud of that, and we're proud of the collaboration with Covenant that made that possible. We also collaborate with them with our lab services and other areas as well. So we have a long-standing relationship from that standpoint. If I could, just some quick updates, Mayor, on some other things that are going on at the hospital. Where in October we opened our radiation oncology facility, which will give us a complete cancer program, not only the chemotherapy, but also the radiation treatments. That program is starting up in October. And on the wellness facility, some great news to report there. We've been open, October will be a year. We have over 3,000 members. Our goal was to have 2,500 by the end of year 3, so we have 3,000 today. And that program's going very well as well. So be happy to answer any questions that you have or concerns.
Question?
Go ahead.
Mr. Shaw, I want to commend you for your hard work for bringing Lovington to one of the top hospitals probably in the country. We've seen all the progress that has been made, and it's such a beautiful facility. I visited there for 3 days a couple of weeks ago. I was in there for 3 days, but not that I was there, it was my wife, so I was able to spend my time with her. But there's one question that kind of has been behind my back, nagging me, and I told you this a few years back, and I kind of got like, no way. When I suggested it, why didn't they have the ward where you can have babies here in Lovington? I was born in Lovington, all my kids were born in Lovington, everybody's born in Hobbs, or everybody's born in Lubbock, or born even in Denver City. If Denver City can, which is a smaller place, if we all can have that facility to have babies, why can't we here in Lovington?
No, it's a fair question. And if you look at the state of New Mexico and you look at all the rural hospitals in the state of New Mexico, I think there's only 3 rural hospitals left that deliver babies. This is in no way to disparage what Denver City's doing, but anything that you do, if you do in high volume, you develop skills and you get really good at it. But if you do something low volume and you don't do it frequently, you're not as skilled at it. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say? And so when you're not delivering a significant number of babies, and you have 3 OBGYNs, we're in a very litigious state. There's lawsuits associated with that. A number of the hospitals in the state of New Mexico that were doing OB have closed because of that. That's one reason. The other reason is Medicaid, which primarily is the payer of choice with OB services in our state, is a poor payer, so you typically would lose money providing those services. In my mind, because of the close proximity to Hobbs, the greater population base that they have over there, it would make more sense for the community as a whole, Lee County as a whole, to have that facility there delivering babies. So that's why we've chosen not to do that.
Well, it looks like everything's been sent to Hobbs. Really a lot of business, a lot of things.
Well, I don't think that's true, and I have facts to back that up. Our hospital, when I came here in 2000, we did about $6 million in expenses. Today we do about $120 million in expenses. Lee Regional did $120 million in expenses roughly when I came here, and today they do about a third of that. So majority of those outpatient services are coming to Lovington. If we had remained an acute care hospital, which would have facilitated us being able to do deliveries, we would not have been able to recruit the 12 specialists that we have because of the limitations on the reimbursement models. We're getting into the weeds, the difference between critical access and acute care. It's kind of a trade-off. Do we want to do OB services, have a smaller facility with less services, or do we want to have a more comprehensive facility with a greater array of services but not do OB? And so the board has always felt like that's a concern for our community, and we felt like that collaborating with Covenant was the best way to approach that and the safest way to approach that for the women in our community.
Good answer, but I'm not happy.
Other than your normal housing issues and employee issues, what other struggles do you think that is going to be, or do you see that I'm not seeing? I'm just curious.
Well, you kind of named them.
I didn't know if there was something else, but that seems like the biggest struggle, whether it's in Lovington or Hobbs. Our housing situation seems to be, we just can't build enough or can't get the right, we can't get enough of the low end or the medium or the upper end housing.
Right.
I mean, it seems to be a real struggle here, and I don't know why, because there seems to be a massive demand, and then actually trying to draw people and keep them here in our community. I know there's other issues with, services isn't the correct word, but, places to purchase things and stuff in Lovington becomes an issue also. I know we're working on that constantly, but I just didn't know if there was something outside of that I'm not seeing, or if that's just the main struggles in between Lovington and Hobbs because of the increased oil production and the higher wages and different things like that, or if that's just...
I generally don't have a real challenge getting people interested in a job or coming here. We pay well, have good benefits. It's a good working environment. People want to come and they stay. The challenge is housing, and the thing that's a little discouraging for me, we have 550 employees, and I'm not sure what the number is today. At one point, it was well over 100, 150 or more are commuting from Hobbs over here. And I think a significant number of them would prefer to live over here, but being able to find an apartment or a house that meets their budgetary needs is the challenge.
Thank you.
And I think going forward with the new hospital, the folks that have to staff that's going to be a big challenge as well. And then I think there's going to be a certain number, hopefully not many, but there'll be a certain number of people that are commuting that'll decide, well, rather than commute, I'll just work over there. So that then means I've got to go out and recruit people for those
So
positions as well.
there's probably a percentage that will transfer to that facility just because of the commute.
Yeah. I think there'll be some, but it's interesting. We had town hall meetings with all the staff last Tuesday before the public announcement, and that was a couple people asked that question. But the majority of the sense that I got, people love working for Norley. It's a good work environment. They like, and the risk of leaving what they've earned or
Right.
accumulated being a part of that organization and go and work for another one. Some of them felt like it wasn't worth the risk.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
And we are going to remain independent from
Yeah,
government. We're going to just still be.
absolutely. That will not change. We are independent. Our 5 board members will make those decisions for the future of our organization that are in the best interest of our community.
We thank you for stopping by, Dave.
Yeah, and thank you. I appreciate all of your support. As I told the school board the other day, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of what we do if it weren't for the support that we get from the city and the school and other entities in the community. So, it really is a collaborative effort, and our community is really a model for a lot of communities when they're looking at their health care. And we always point to others and the collaboration that we've had to our success. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Jake?
Yes, sir. Mayor, Commissioners, before we move on to the next action item, one thing, Melinda had to step out, but one thing that she has done down there at the youth center is she has revamped our after-school program to where it's a little bit more structured. So she has actually posted the new programs with the after-school program being targeted for the younger kids, K through 3rd, basically from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Then we have older kids come in 4th through 6th. And then, of course, our older youth, they actually come in after from 6 to 8. So we're reducing mingling of the older kids and more of a structured environment for learning while they have fun. And also, one of the other things I'd like to mention is that Melinda recently applied to the After School Ambassador Program. It's a nationwide leadership program that focuses on after-school activities. And she was actually selected to be the state of New Mexico ambassador for that program. So she'll have the opportunity to get some additional training that the After School Ambassador Program, which is through the After School Alliance, they'll actually provide that training and provide coverage for her expenses for that. So if you see Melinda, she had to run over to Main Street. They had a board meeting. Please congratulate her on that. The next item that we have, sir, is our ICIP discussion. As you know, we'll have to approve the ICIP plan at our next commission meeting because we have to have that submitted and finalized to the state by September 1st. But a couple of the items that we do need to discuss typically is what we consider our top projects, not necessarily our top 5 projects, but if you pull up in Novus agenda, you have a copy of the draft plan, which kind of ranks the projects following what we did last year, as well as staff recommendations. To kind of go over our top 6, of course, priority number 1 is continuing our County Veterans Memorial Project. With this particular project, we have almost finished acquiring the block. We have 2 of the properties that are currently under contract, and those are having to have some title issues resolved. And Mr. Lawson is working on the one pending acquisition for that particular property. We did receive $600,000 from the state through legislative appropriation last year. That's actually helping with the planning and design, which we released that RFP for planning, design, and construction management services. We received the responses on the 1st, and we'll have our recommendations to you to award that RFP at the next city commission meeting. With the remainder of that, or the balance of that funding, we can begin some construction activities, but we do still need to find the estimated $2.9 million to continue the project. We will actually have an updated cost to that once the planning and design components are complete, with the architects who can get in there and do a little bit better job figuring on that. Priority number 2 is an animal services facility or animal shelter. If you're not aware, the current facility is out at the old vet clinic that the city acquired, I want to say back in 2009, 2010. We only operate the animal shelter out of about less than 3,000 square feet, and it is grossly inadequate. It's outdated. So one of the things that we would like to do with some of the property to the south of town, since we already own that, is to construct about a 7,000 square foot facility to where we could have intake for cats, dogs, also an adoption area, as well as an area to where we can house large animals. We have a partnership with Lee County. Whenever they find large animals like horses that have been abandoned, we actually have a facility that meets those needs. So we're looking at a total cost of about $730,000, but we do desperately need to expand the space and improve those facilities, as well as the state is coming out with new requirements as far as what the minimum requirements are that we'll need to follow. And we haven't seen these requirements yet, but we don't believe that the existing facility, it would be cost effective to actually bring that into compliance. Yes, sir.
What would we do with the present facility?
That would be up to the commission, and honestly, I think it might be in our best interest to see if we could just sell the property to the existing vet who's there.
Could we fix it up instead? Maybe it looks like it, does it have room in the back to expand?
No, sir. It has a very small footprint.
How many acres have we got there?
I want to say that we've only maybe got two acres on that for the entire facility out there. And right now that we share that building with our with the veterinarian, Dr. Hornback. And like I said, we only have about, I want to say it's like 2,800 square feet that we utilize. The rest of that building is all occupied by the vet for their surgical room. They have their examination rooms, and then of course their office. And we actually have some shared space back there as well.
So do they pay their share of the rent there or whatever?
They do pay us rent, yes, sir.
So couldn't that be continued for her?
That could be if we wanted to continue to own the building and lease it. The priority number 3 recommendation, of course, is bringing this one back, our commercial street restrooms and concessions. You recall we needed to take the existing restrooms down, as well as the old concession stand. What we were wanting to do was actually build or actually bring in one of the prefab restrooms to put out there at that particular facility, and instead of building a stick-built structure for our concession stand, actually use a mobile trailer that can be utilized when we have softball tournaments where we need actually more room for concessions for those different events, as well as the ADA restrooms at that particular site. The estimated cost for the total project is $250,000, and this was priority number 3 last year. Priority number 4 remained the same with Chaparral Park Amphitheater. If you recall from July 4th, actually the amphitheater right now does not have a roof on it. The structure is well over 50 years old. We had to remove the roof for safety reasons as the large timbers were starting to rot. We did erect a temporary sun sail so the facility could still be used, and we're looking at some additional improvements to expand that, which are cost effective. But the goal of this particular project was to upgrade it to where it had adequate electricity, to where you could do concerts out at the park, movies. needing some lighting, and of course a replacement structure. Priority number 5 is a new one, and this is a northwest water, a tower located on the northwest side of town. The site, we actually reserved a footprint of this with our fire station up on North 17th Street, and the northeast corner of the facility we actually left and reserved as undeveloped for placement of this. When we extended the water main, we actually extended the water main up this direction so it could actually be tied into this. This location was selected because of the comprehensive plan. You can actually find this on our website, but it's projecting that residential growth will go to the north and the west. And in order to supply those future development, future homes, we do need to add to our water towers. This particular project's $750,000 estimated, and it's a 220,000 gallon tank, water elevated tank. Priority number 5 is not the Northwest Water Tower. It's actually, I apologize, it's a 3.3 million gallon water storage tank that would be located in the well field, just to meet the additional demands that we have and will be facing. Right now, our well field is putting out water, but we do need to have some extra storage capacity when we have those peak demands. So we're looking at about $3.5 million for that particular project as well. And our last priority number 6, of course, is the theater rehabilitation. We were awarded $100,000 last year. However, we have the concessions and plumbing that needs to be redone up front. The price tag on that is $30,000. We just received the estimated cost for the update of or restoration of the marquee. That came in at $162,000, but did not include. That's cheaper than what I thought, believe it or not. I was actually estimating $275,000. So, but that does not include any structural repairs when they take the marquee off, or any required electrical upgrades. So we just put in about a $20,000 contingency for items like that. So we still need an additional $112,000 to hopefully complete that project. The concession remodel, we are looking to begin that at the end of summer. We're just actually waiting on what they call the notice of obligation from the state. Theater will have to be shut down for about 5 days while they do all of this work. And I would stand for any questions the commission may have.
Is the air conditioning and the heating, is it all already in place?
So that would be another phase of the particular project, to redo the heating and air conditioning for the lobby. Right, yes, sir. Right now, the auditorium, we did replace the swamp coolers at the beginning of last year. We've had a couple of issues with that, but it is brand new equipment, and when water's flowing to them, it does help to cool that auditorium. Somebody kept shutting the water off.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
There are no other questions by the board? Thank you, Tim. Moving on to action items. You'll have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 2019-92, approval of advertise an ordinance that will amend Title II, Division 4, Municipal Court, Chapter 2.60.060E.
Second.
A motion second. James.
Mayor and Commissioners, Judge Campbell had requested that we change this portion of the municipal code. Right now, specifically for magistrate court, they have to keep copies of all of the traffic citations for 5 years. If you recall, back in January, we updated our policy and records retention guidelines to conform with what the state was going with, and it's only for 3 years. And so that we don't have any conflicts, she's requesting that we change the ordinance. So this is asking for the commission's permission to go ahead and start that advertisement process with final consideration and hopeful adoption in this September.
We actually have to just keep hard copies on that, you know how everything's transferred now to CDs or
Yes, sir.
microfilm, well, not microfilm, that's up going way back, but.
When was that? Like right after Moses or what?
But yes, so, I don't see a problem. It's all, but you said we have to keep that for 5 years, or up to 5 years.
Mayor, Commissioner Butcher, right now, the city code says 5 years. However, the records retention policy that we adopted back in January, that the municipal league put together, it's only recommending 3 years for the traffic citations.
Okay.
Got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, resolutions 2019-093, increase of city motor vehicle department fees.
Got a motion second, Gary?
Your mayor and commission, the motivation behind this really started because of a regulation from the Department of Finance. I'm really thankful that the state recognizes that the motor vehicle department really should operate as what is called an enterprise operation, or an enterprise, because they've forced us to start reporting to them all of the expenses and revenues as an enterprise fund. So to make a comparison, something that makes sense, basically the motor vehicle department per the state is now considered the same thing as our water or sewer operations or our ambulance operations. That being the case, any enterprise operation per good governmental standards should always be self-funded. And I put a report in here. One of the items that we have is a historical cost, and I don't have it. It's in part of the agenda. Do you have it as well? Oh, I do. Yeah, right there. As you can see, in the past several years since 2014, we've averaged as a city funding the motor vehicle department by over $36,000 a year, depending on the year and whatever the current operational costs are. And so in order to be an enterprise fund, that contribution directly from the city needs to be a zero. So my proposal is this, that we change those fees so that we can avoid subsidizing the motor vehicle department, which in fact is actually a state function, a state operation. We're just, as a city, hosting an office and providing the service to our community. And of course, at the cost historically of over $36,000 a year for something that really should always be on the state. And they've given us the ability to adjust our fees to cover the cost that since the operation started. And so one of the other items that I'd like to mention too is, besides trying to cover our costs, and by the way, the resolution states that we want to increase the fees by $1, but I'm proposing a $2 increase. So I'd like to amend that resolution and say $2. And my primary reason for that is to help us ensure that we can maintain staffing at the level that it currently is right now of 5 employees, having 5 full-time employees because of the good service that they're providing. And that's where I'm going to turn it over to Maria if she has any statements she wants to make about that.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Some of the main focus has been customer service at motor vehicle, and having Desiree, which was hired as a temp, we've greatly seen the improvement in customer service, allowing us time to focus on those customers' needs, not wasting their time waiting for somebody to help them and realizing they don't have the documentation they need. So someone at front line is helping them to look over their documents, look at their records, see what's needed. If they just need a simple motor vehicle report, that individual can just go ahead and print it for them. So we're saving them time. We're saving them not just time in having a transaction done, but we're saving them waiting time. So we're not having a lobby full of people waiting, for that answer, whether they're going to be helped or not. And it also has opened up some time for us to focus on our training, so that we can be up to date on all our training and making sure that my staff is always up to date with policy and procedure, because the state with Real ID has changed documentation throughout the time that Real ID started, which was November of 16. So that's kind of hard on us as well, because we may tell you you need these certain documents today, and in a couple of weeks they might be different. So that gives me as manager time to focus on those training issues that we've had through the years, not because the state hasn't provided those rules and regulations, but it gives me more time to focus on those employee needs and customer needs as well. But that's the main thing. We've gotten a lot of compliments as far as the public is concerned. They really like that we have that employee at that front desk, because they really appreciate that they're not waiting more than they need to.
So this $1 or $2 transactional fee goes to the $4 that we're paying now that's separate
Yes, sir.
from the other fees.
Yes, sir.
Which drives me absolutely insane, because I did vote for this the first time because I didn't understand it fully, that I have to take 2 checks up there to pay for that fee. And it's made clear to me from James that the state won't let us change that, but I still have to voice my opinion. That just burns my eye.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Okay, I got it up. I'm good.
Okay. Well, and I think I know that is, that some people have an issue with that, but the state doesn't want to have a completely different account to have to just turn around and send it back to the city. So.
And that's crazy, because they have to do that with half our taxes and everything else, so I don't see what the difference is.
Well, the difference is every municipality has a different fee. So.
Every business, I'm arguing
Yes, sir.
with you, I know you're just,
I understand.
but every business out there has a different something about it that causes them to have, so it just, like I said, it's one of the things that just crawls all over me. So, but again, just had to voice my opinion.
Okay.
Well, I remember when it was $1, and then when it went to 4, I voted for it. But now I'm considering not.
Well, a couple of things, if I may. These are fees that are currently being charged by some other local agencies. The highest, of course, is JAL at $6. I'm proposing that we charge the $6. And the primary reason is we really only have about 18,000 transactions a year that we're charging a fee for. That would not be enough. $1 would not be enough to cover our projected $27,000 contribution that the city is going to make this year. We would have to charge $2 to guarantee that the city is not subsidizing the motor vehicle department.
So my question would be, if we go ahead and charge the $2, how many people will actually not drive from Hobbs or Lovington to here to get their stuff done? What percentage do you think that will account for, or are we mostly just servicing Lovington?
We are actually servicing a lot. I can't give you an exact figure because there's no report that shows how many people come here from Hobbs, but we do have a high percentage of customers coming in from Hobbs, and one of the main reasons is Hobbs closes at 3. And so a lot of those customers are coming into our office.
Well, I was just afraid that if you went to $2 and you lost a substantial amount of people that were willing to pay the extra $2, because they're already having to pay for gas up here. So, I didn't know if there was going to be a trade-off, or if the loss of revenue was going to be substantial enough that it still wasn't enough.
I think very much like Mr. Shaw mentioned about the new facility, there's always going to be that change temporarily in the behavior of a few people. But in the long run, I don't believe that we would suffer any reduction in number of customers that we're servicing.
Right. Thank you.
How many years back was that, Maria?
It
We
went
to
to-
4?
I went back to 2014.
So it's been about 5 years.
Since we've started charging?
No, yeah, since we did the $4.
Oh, the $4?
I believe it was either, I'm sorry, I believe it was either 2000, it was in 2010 or 2012,
figured
if
it
I'm
was
not mistaken.
Quite a while back, yeah.
Yes, sir.
It was like right after I came
Yeah,
on
so,
board.
yeah, I guess we're due for all the inflation. That's what you should have said.
And will that money go into a separate account, general funds, where is it? I mean, you know, you said you're gonna use it for training and such things as we need down there for.
You're
the
correct.
ladies.
This is money that is going to be tracked specifically for the motor vehicle only. It has its own fund, and the fund is an enterprise fund. We have to track that different from the rest of the city's money.
I think a lot of people don't realize cost, it's just like the cost of living, it does go up. If it's been 9 years, the cost of living has gone up, the cost of doing business has gone up, so I don't see a problem with us going up $2 because everything's gone up, so we're gonna have to.
Yeah, but I just hate writing 2 checks. Just burns me up.
So we're gonna have to accommodate motor vehicle department in that area to do the cost of increase of doing business. Any other questions by the board?
Still not happy about it.
Okay, we had a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Aye.
I'll say aye too. Ayes have it.
But do we need to re-amend that motion?
To
To
$2.
$2.
Did you do that?
It's all about the table.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to re-amend the motion to raise it up to $2 in that transaction for the motor vehicle departments instead of 1.
Yeah, but you had to second, you seconded it a while ago, so you're gonna have to
Take it back.
not second if you're gonna be that hard about it.
Had a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still ain't happy.
All right. We have another motion.
You gonna pay the bills, Art?
Amen. I make a motion we consider accounts payable.
Second.
Had a motion second, James, or Gary, excuse me.
Your mayor and commission, as you can see, we have our normal payables list. The highest expenditure was with Waste Management Authority on the last page, the $144,000, a normal monthly expenditure for all of the residential polycarts and things. And then our second highest expenditure was on the first page, and that was old sign companies. So for the entry signs, the $51,896 was our second highest expenditure. And then, of course, the third was our city electric bill with Lee County Electric. I'm available to answer any questions if you have any.
AccuShade, second one on the.
Yes,
24.
that's one I would like to ask the police chief to address.
We had 16 bulletproof vests that expired and we had to replace them.
I just had to one before. so I don't know.
You guys donate them?
No.
They donate one.
Yeah.
No, they say they wear out and they're not any good.
Oh, they look good.
The warranty wears out.
Warranty, very good.
So, explain, I'm just curious
Every
now.
5 years, the company will not validate them after 5 years.
So after
Because,
5 years, because of wear, tear, stress,
Correct.
up until that point, then.
Gary, you got one for
they-
certified laboratories for
Okay, I was just curious how much parts.
$3,600?
Certified laboratories?
Yes.
Okay, for the
That's on the first page of it.
3,605?
Yes.
I'll get you that one here in just a minute. Don't have it all written on my my main page. I got to look at the back of it.
Or something.
Certified laboratories. What I have here are expenses related to the street and sewer department. And we're buying, obviously, according to streets, grease, towels, and hydraulic oil, and then some kind of special oil for the wastewater department.
And below it, Cummings, Rocky Mountain, $2,967. 86 cents.
That, go ahead, Wyatt.
See, Rocky, or Commissioner, they do our services for all of our generators. They actually do our warranty checks and everything, so they come down and they'll do a full service on them. That's the company that does. I believe this one was actually, we had our generator at our booster tube. One of our circuit boards went bad, and it was every time the power would go down, it would switch over, but automatically it won't switch back and let the city power come back on, so it was sitting there like the generator. I believe that was the expense for that, but I can definitely find out.
Do they do this on a yearly basis, or?
Yes, sir, there's once a year they do come around and check all of our generators, including PD and Fire's new generator. It's a yearly contract that we do have with them. They come to make sure the load test, everything is completed and good and running.
And I can verify that. I spoke with Darren about it.
One for custom built porches, $1,000.
Custom built porches, that's something with the police department related to the evidence facility.
The modular building that we have at the evidence facility, we have never gotten any steps for it, and we just purchased them for that.
They give better answers.
DPC Industries, 2,250.
DPNC Industries, if I may, I'll turn that over to Wyatt.
Commissioner, that is who we get our 100% chlorine from. It goes into our water and wastewater for effluent to kill any bacteria or anything that comes in.
Patience.
You don't make the bills go away without waiting.
Yeah.
Hey, they could, match if you want.
Sam's Club.
Let me see, this particular purchase at Sam's Club, let me look. They needed some new tables for the youth center, and they purchased them at Sam's Club.
Somebody mentioned the share corporate, did we do that again? The Share Corporation, 9,000.
That's primarily expenditures related to our ambulance service. And I'm not exactly sure what they do, other than that it says things like bug remover and PEPO 2 HER. I don't even know what that is.
Those are our cleaning supplies for the station, and also our bug wash for the ambulances and car wash for the ambulance.
So this is yearly? Or?
No, I don't know if the 3,000 is all ours.
Part of that is with the water department, and it says good grape degreaser for infiltration.
But we buy this service how often? Once a year?
Apparently it's chemicals.
Sir. It's chemicals. These are cleaning supplies, degreasers.
Or monthly.
But do we do this every year, do this much every year?
Yes.
Same amount of,
Or very close, yes, sir.
okay. Almost. Okay.
Okay, there's no other further question. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go into closed session pursuant, let me see what it is. Pursuant of section 10-15-1, New Mexico, New Mexico 1978 subsection H8 regarding the purchase, acquisition, and disposition of real property or water right.
Second.
Motion second. Shannon, roll.
Mayor Trujillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Butcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gandy.
Yes.
We are in closed session. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go back into regular session. I'd like to make a motion to go back into regular session. Matters discussed in closed session were limited to only those specified in the motion for closure, and that no action was taken.
Second.
I have a motion, second by Arthur. Roll call. Shannon?
Commissioner Sanchez.
Aye.
Mayor Trujillo.
Aye.
Commissioner Gandy.
Aye.
Commissioner Butcher.
Aye.
We are in session.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to issue an RFP for the sale of the city-owned lot on the northeast corner of Main and Harrison with a minimum bid requirement of $1,500.
Second it.
And motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to issue an RFP for sale of city-owned lot on the undeveloped right-of-way on the 1500 block of North Main Street with a minimum bid requirement of $3,000.
And motion second by Arthur. Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do I have another motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for closure.